an AppleVis original.
Hello there, and welcome once again to the AppleVis Extra podcast. My name is David Nason, and I'm here with another episode in our summer series talking to blind and low vision developers, so developers from our own communities creating some really interesting apps. Today's episode is a chat with Rocco Fiorentino, who is the developer of an app that is currently in beta called FloType. For people who remember the Fleksy keyboard and the FlickType keyboard, this app will be familiar. This is Rocco has taken up the torch, so to speak, since those apps went away and built a new app along the same lines that really speeds up typing. I've been using it myself and love it. So I was really happy that Rocco was happy to chat to me. So without further ado, here's my chat with Rocco. Hello, Rocco, and thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. Hope you're well.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
No, delighted to have you. You're in Nashville, is that right?
Yes, I am in Nashville, in good old Tennessee for the moment.
Baking hot, recording in early August, I'm guessing.
Yes, it is very toasty up here.
I'm in the temperate climate of Ireland, so yeah, nice. But yeah, it's good to take a bit of time out and have this chat. So thanks so much.
Of course,
I
thank you
suppose
for
we'll
having me.
start. You've come on kind of onto our radar through the FloType app, and we'll come back and talk about that a little bit. But I was curious, like even in terms of your background, like how you even got into developing an app in the first place. Is this your first app? And yeah, what's your kind of background in this area?
Yeah, so I've always kind of been that techie kid. I grew up in music, and I still am very much in music. I'm an audio engineer and producer down here in Nashville. But part of that has also always been some kind of development. I've messed around with, AppleScript in the early days, and app development and coding and kind of getting computers or phones or whatever to do what I wanted, to create something that didn't exist already, has been a lot of fun for me. And so when I went up to Berklee College of Music up in Boston for a little bit, I met another blind professor there whose name is Chi Kim. And we used Pro Tools a lot, which is the kind of standard audio editor and DAW in the industry. And Pro Tools is great. I would say it's maybe about 95% accessible out of the box. But there are some things that aren't quite convenient when using it on the Mac and with VoiceOver. And so Chi and I kind of put our heads together and said, what can we do to kind of fix that and improve that? And we created something called Flow Tools. And it basically was a bunch of JavaScript that went on top of Pro Tools to kind of enhance the workflow for screen reader users. And so that we started in 2015, I want to say, and it's still an ongoing project. But that was really my first kind of real play around in development and coding. And fast forward whatever that is, 10 years or so. And I really kind of wanted to get more into it. And I started kind of looking into Swift and doing some things, and playing with, some of the agentic AI a little bit. And I kind of went, I think I actually want to build more things. And this whole keyboard idea was something that I think I was really sorely missing since Fleksy and FlickType had gone away. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one who was missing that. And there really hasn't ever been, to me, a touchscreen typing experience that was like that or is like that since both of the apps have gone away. And so I thought, what happens if I try to use that as inspiration and kind of revive it? And that's how FloType started. And funny enough, I really didn't intend for FloType to be the actual name of it. It had nothing to do with Flow Tools either. I kind of thought, okay, FlickType, I was trying to play with a name, and really I just used that to create a test flight instance, right? So that there was, a name associated with it, and I could, send it to 5 or 6 people and have them play with it. And then I kind of went, okay, I think this name is going to stick. Now here we are.
Love it. I love that. So you actually did music in college as opposed to, it wasn't like a
Yeah, no, I never took like computer science or any of that stuff. I just kind of, started learning on my own and diving in and, figuring out kind of the ins and outs of what I needed to do as I did it, which kind of was what I did with AppleScript too. I just started looking at examples and guides and reading, and I think that's kind of how I learn best, is just by like doing and trying and failing and doing again and reading more and
Yeah, absolutely. It's very Nashville to be into music.
Yeah, it's a good place to be for that. I do. Yeah, I still do that professionally. That's kind of my main thing. This is sort of another sort of side branch that I've started diving into.
It's a really cool hobby. Although it's gone beyond a hobby now, but like to start out as something, like you say, it's a side project, and to be able to learn it. And I think it's one of the great things we have nowadays is that ability to self-teach. You don't have to go to college to learn how to create an app, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah. And the advancements in AI have been amazing in that too, because, if there's something particular that I'm struggling with, I can go like, hey, how does this thing work? Or I'm using this as an example, and what could be better about it, or what can I change to make this happen, or, all that stuff.
Yeah. And are you fully Mac based then for your work?
Yes, I'm fully Mac and iOS based. I may at some point get an Android to kind of poke around and maybe develop with that as well, because one of the first requests I got when I put this out in beta was, when are you going to make an Android version? And I was like, eventually. It's not out of the question, but at the moment I don't have an Android device, so I got to do that first before I could start developing for a device I don't have.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest barriers. I know there are obviously blind Android users, but it's almost a chicken and egg situation, because
exactly,
more people won't move to Android until there's more apps, and you won't get more apps until more people move. So
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. We definitely needed an app like this. I was telling you before we started the official recording that I would have used Fleksy and FlickType back in the day. I remember interviewing the guys behind that app, and it was fantastic at the time. And then when it went away, I sort of said, I'm going to try Apple's direct touch typing, which is the closest built-in experience that we have to that. And in some ways it works well. I got quite fast, but when you make a mistake, you have to go back and delete the word. There's none of this.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things, is that very easy, just it reads the word and you just swipe up or down to change the word. And yeah, so I think I'm among many who were really happy when FloType popped up.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's at the time of this recording, it is currently in beta. But we'll see. I want to kind of try and fix a few other bugs before it actually gets released, but I'm aiming to have it in the App Store by at least by the end of the year of 2026, if not before then. The amount of messages that I've gotten just of people excited about it and feedback from it, and people that, said that, it changed their life because they're only able to use, one arm or one hand, and, that it made typing, exponentially easier for them. It's just been amazing.
It's also made it much, much less likely that I'm going to throw my phone against a wall.
Well, I appreciate that too. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Which is great. For the uninitiated, do you want to give us a quick description of what the app actually is and what it does?
Sure. Yeah. So if someone has never used those two apps that we mentioned before, FlickType or Fleksy, essentially FloType is inspired by that concept, which is that as a blind or low vision user, it's almost near impossible to type completely accurately, right? On the first try, if you type the word, hello, without seeing the screen and the letters, you're very rarely going to tap exactly on HELLO, right? And so that's kind of the point, is that, like, because it's a touch screen, there's not really a great way for us to type with that, at least almost as fast as our sighted, peers. And so FloType is kind of aimed to change that. So when you type, you don't get feedback when you're typing the letters, because the whole point of it is that it maps your finger positions of your tapping on the screen to where it thinks your layout of the QWERTY keyboard is in your head, right? So it tries to guess, if you tap in the middle of the screen for H and maybe the top left of the screen for E, semi bottom right of the screen for both L's, and kind of top right for the O, it's probably 95% of the time going to guess that you want to write the word hello on your first try. And so you type the word you want, you swipe right to get, to sort of enter it into the text field and get the suggestion of what it thinks the word is that you're trying to type. And if that suggestion is incorrect, you can swipe down or back up through a list of words that it thinks that you're trying to type, and then you can just keep typing when you find the word that you want.
Yeah, so it's pattern recognition as opposed to...
Essentially, yes. It's very intense. It's essentially a very intense predictive / autocorrect pattern recognition.
Yeah. And I think one of the strengths as well is if you, like for space, you don't have to go find the space bar either. It's all...
Yeah, it just spaces everything for you. Swiping right again after you type a word will give you punctuation. So you get a period, and then you can go down through, swipe down to get comma, question mark, all that stuff. And if you swipe up from those, you can customize emojis, and there's all kinds of things that you can change in its settings and how it behaves and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of seamlessly lets you go into, if you do want to type a word that's not in the dictionary, you can type it manually by the old school method, so to speak.
Yeah.
By sliding around and lifting, and you can add the word that way. So I think you were set up there you had your phone set up if you want to give a 2-minute demo.
Yeah, sure.
Speech on.
Okay, so I'm now in the main FloType app. There is also a keyboard extension so that you can use this system-wide. So you don't have to just type in the app. You can type in any app in iOS. So I'm going to make sure that I have...
No text.
No text. Okay, cool. So I am going to type hello since we've just talked about it. So, and notice as much as I type, right, you didn't get any letters there. It didn't tell me what I'm actually tapping. It just has the sound and the haptic for me to let me know that it's registered that I've tapped something, but there's no feedback until I swipe right.
Hello.
And there we go.
Hello.
And it spells it out so it knows that I know that that's what I've typed. That's not really that helpful right now, but if I'm typing something like the word than, there's THAN and THEN, right? And VoiceOver kind of reads them the same, so you can have it spell out different words as you type.
Optional. You can have that.
Yeah, that is optional. In fact, I probably should have turned that off for this demo. That's funny. But I'm going to keep typing. So I'm going to write I am. And notice I didn't put an apostrophe there because FloType will offer that to me as a suggestion anyway. I'm going to swipe right.
I''M.
Perfect.
Cap I apostrophe clear taps.
And typing.
Typing.
Using this app. Now I'm going to purposely type a little bit below the P. Swipe right.
All.
I got all.
ALL.
And I'm going to swipe down now.
App. APP.
Called FloType.
FloType. Period.
And if I swipe right again.
Period.
And up.
Smiling face.
I get an emoji.
Yeah, it really is that simple, isn't it? You just tap, and you just tap.
And if I want to delete, I can swipe left.
Smiling face.
And now I've deleted the emoji. If I swipe left again.
Period.
I've deleted the period. If I swipe right again.
Period.
I'll go down to an exclamation point.
Comma. Question mark. Exclamation mark.
There we go.
And again, even things like, delete is a swipe. Next line is a swipe and hold. So again, you're not having to look for buttons ever, rarely, unless you want to do manual typing. You're not having to look for specific buttons or keys.
Yeah, and you can do that. There is like a return character that you can get to by manual entry, right? If you hold your finger. So if I hold my finger, let me turn
Shift off.
If I hold my finger down,
D, F, G.
Now I get letters, right? Just like normal, so that I can enter something that isn't in FloType's dictionary. Because if FloType doesn't know what it is, you can't tap it out, right? Because it's not in its like known word bank. And if I go to the bottom here,
HM, delete, return.
I can delete or return. And of course, if I let go on the return,
empty line,
it's going to tell me that there's a new line there.
Yeah, that's kind of how the app works. And really, I have to say, I think it's still in beta, and I think it's already very solid. So it's great. I think people are interested as well, like in terms of where it came from, because I believe FlickType, when it kind of went away, I think it was purchased by Pinterest, if memory serves, and then there was talk of it going them open sourcing the code. Were you able to tap into that at all, or did you have to create this?
Unfortunately not. I really wish that they had open sourced it, because I probably would have done this, or at least someone would have done this much sooner if they had done that. But I think Fleksy was purchased by Pinterest. And then I don't really know what happened to it or why, but it's gone now. I know it was around for quite a while, and when they first purchased it, they pretty much completely broke accessibility to it, which is, I think, really why FlickType ended up coming back out. And then the developer of FlickType and Apple kind of had a back and forth in 2021. And FlickType essentially went away. It is still in the App Store, but it really doesn't work. It crashes, and the extension is gone. And I'm not sure about the watch part of it, but I don't think that works the way that it's supposed to either, as far as I'm aware. And I kind of reached out to that developer a few times and said, hey, what's going on? I really miss this app, and I really want it to come back, and I'd even be happy to help you, do whatever over the years, and I just kind of got no answer. And so I finally said, well, you know what? I think it's time that I at least try to do something about it. And so this was the result of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very familiar, isn't it, to the previous ones?
That was my goal. Yeah, I never was trying to make a direct copy of anything or try to step on anybody's toes. But I really there's only so many ways that you can play with a keyboard, right? And I think that idea of having that pattern recognition is one of the greatest ways that I've seen of typing for people who can't see a flat surface. And so I kind of use that as a jumping off point and then expanded upon it.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. It really does. And it's just much more efficient. So hopefully people will check it out and discover how useful it can be. What I'm curious actually, in terms of the development kind of process. Obviously, you mentioned you're self-taught. You're kind of using the Mac. Is it all in Xcode, or what kind of tools do you use?
Yeah, it's all in Xcode, or the command line for Xcode, because sometimes that's easier too. But yeah, it's all in Swift. It's all in Xcode, which is why the Android side is going to be quite a project, because Android does not run Swift. So whenever I decide to tackle that, it's going to take me a minute to port it over to, I think Android is like JPack or something. To port it over to whatever. What's that?
Else? Flutter, is that a language? Or?
It may be. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up, because I haven't been in the Android world almost at all. So you may be right, and you may be onto something, but I would need to look that up. But yeah, for now it's all done in Swift.
Well, we're AppleVis, so that's our main concern.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Let Android fight for themselves. And you mentioned using LLMs. Are they helping you with writing the code, the AIs, or is it more for your kind of the learning process, or both?
I think a little bit of both. Yeah. I think these AI tools and stuff are amazing, but they're also very new and very prone to influence, I guess is the right word, right? So, I can say, this is the thing that I would like to do. Here is some of the code that I've written already. Tell me, whatever. If you see any errors, or you have a suggestion, or I've gone halfway, now I want to do something else and go look at documentation, and you finish the rest of the half, and you tell me when you're done, and I'll look at that kind of thing. But I think that a lot of people have started kind of letting AI sort of run itself, and have agents supervise other agents, and do all that stuff. And it's like, okay, that's cool. You might make an app, but is it really what you want? And does it look right? And does it, AI has been an incredible asset, I think, for a lot of people, including myself. And I'm excited to kind of see where it goes, because it can only get better from here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, anyway. There's probably me included, people listening who are kind of curious to learn a bit of code, even to get started. Like, is there anywhere you'd recommend people, in terms of resources or tutorials or anything like that?
So honestly, I think obviously like Apple has guides and documentation and getting started things, and they're not bad. But with where AI is now, I honestly would say to start there. Ask it, build something simple, or start with something simple. You don't even have to build anything, but you can just ask it about it and what the code would look like and what it would take. But if you do want to actually kind of get something in your hands, it will build you something like completely. Like you can run it on your phone, whatever it builds, and it could be something simple. It could be, I don't know, make me an app with 2 tabs and numbers across the screen that when I press the number, it gives me a nice fun sound and a congratulations bubble or something, right? Just for you to understand how the code works, what you're doing, what happens, all that kind of stuff. And then kind of do your thing. The sky's the limit, right? Like if you have an idea, go chase it and build it and, study things along the way. Let AI help you along the way if you're into that. You'll be amazed at how far you can get, and how quickly you can get there. I think in this day and age, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I know one of the other interviews I did for this series actually, he released the other day, was Quentin Williams from the VAL Lock app, and I think his story is very much like that. That he had an idea and just started trying basically, and bit by bit turned it into an actual viable app.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who have used that, and I know Quentin too. He's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And design-wise, then, how did you find that side of it? I don't know how much visual design is involved in an app like.
So it's interesting, right? Because I am totally blind, so I can code colors and all that stuff, but I can't see them, right? I don't know if they look good or not. So my mom was very helpful in screen sharing and going, well, now you made white on white and I can't see anything, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
And so, and AI did help with that as well, because it can take screenshots and look at things and say, that's because you have this here and let me fix the color scheme and blah, blah, blah. And so that, that part has been very, very helpful. I did also need, sighted assistance to, same thing, look at the actual like keyboard rows, right, where as they appear on the screen. And I've had that from testers too. Some low vision users have said, this is too far apart, or these things aren't symmetrical, or whatever the case may be, and I just kind of write it down and go, okay, how do I fix it now? So yeah, I definitely need some visual aids along the way, but that's okay. I'd rather do that than make an app that looks horrible and go, well, here.
Yeah. As I say, I say it works sometimes. So accessibility works both ways,
Exactly.
I have to make PowerPoints and Excel sheets that you can read, as well as you have to make ones that I can read. So,
yeah.
It's very good. And it is built for low vision as well, this app, I think, in fairness, because you've got different contrast options and things like that as well.
Yes, you can change the size of the keys. You can change the contrast of them. By the time this is released, this will also have like a self-voicing option so that you don't have to use VoiceOver if you don't want to. Yeah, so it's definitely meant for both blind and low vision.
Brilliant stuff. So what's next, I suppose? I mean, you mentioned Watch earlier. Will that be on your roadmap, or?
Yeah, so the Watch is currently in beta. Apple, I'm not quite sure what Apple has done with Direct Touch on the Watch. It seems to be like half there, in that, like, if I enable Direct Touch within the app, VoiceOver still tells you to enable it in the rotor when you're on the Watch, except that there is no rotor item for it anymore. It just kind of works on its own. I can't really figure out quite the right trigger for it. Sometimes it works just fine. Sometimes you have to turn off VoiceOver and turn it back on, and then VoiceOver sees it and it's okay. So it's a little odd, but it does work. You can, swipe left and right and type on the watch screen. It's really not meant for like writing a novel. On the phone and the iPad app, there are ways to edit within FloType. There's a rotor that you can use directly inside the keyboard, and 2-finger swipes left and right are essentially your rotor like picker. So if you set your rotor to characters or words, you can move the cursor around by that unit or setting using 2-finger left and right, because up and downs are going through suggestions or punctuation or whatever you're doing when you're typing. But unfortunately, again, Apple restricts watch gestures to 1 finger, at least for the developer. So like I can only ever see 1 finger at a time from if you're using the watch.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure why that is, but that means that, a bunch of other gestures that I've set up for other devices won't work in that context, unfortunately, at least for the time being. And so it's just kind of another option. I don't think it was ever meant to, replace the phone app or anything like that, but it's an option. If you find that you don't want to dictate and you have the watch on and you don't want to use the stock Apple keyboard in there, it's just another option. Multi-language support is another thing that I've gotten a ton of requests for, and that is coming. My goal is to release, when it actually hits the App Store, to release FloType with English and Spanish as kind of native languages, and then obviously other ones coming.
What's involved in that? I'm curious, because obviously, it requires this pattern recognition, so it needs to know the dictionary that you're using. So, how do you go about sources?
Yeah, it's interesting that you ask that, because it's actually a lot more complicated than I think people think. Like it's the actual translation is almost the easy part, which I don't speak. My native and only language is English, so any translations and all of that will either be AI or someone graciously volunteering their time to help me translate things. So I will very much need beta testers and things of different languages if I'm going to do this. But yeah, it's not just the translation. Because of how FloType works, it needs essentially almost a language model for each language. And when I say language model, I don't necessarily mean AI. I mean that it needs an understanding of how the actual language works, how the grammar works, how different words fit together, and contexts of them, and different layouts of the keyboard and all that kind of stuff, in order to make it, a real experience for someone who is, fluently speaks that language. I'm not trying to sort of half adapt to each language and kind of go, well, the main thing is English. My goal is to like fully, embrace each language and whatever its, unique things are to that language, and allow FloType to use those, as much as it can.
Yeah, I can imagine. And even with other languages, you've things like, I don't know about all languages, but I know French, for example, have the ASCII keyboard rather than the QWERTY keyboard, and you could be getting into a whole rabbit hole of different differences.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely a huge project to take on, and not something I take lightly. And I think that is something important to note. Like, there will not be 10 different languages supported in a month. Eventually we'll get there. And I would really love to do that. But if I do that, I think all I'm going to do is end up breaking something or making a mistake and you're going to have, users trying to type in German and French and Italian and be very frustrated by the process. And that's not what I want. I want you to enjoy it and love it and be able to use it and let it be an asset to you and a helpful tool, not something that you go, oh man, this sucks,
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And hopefully people I'm sure will be willing to help and beta test. I would hope you see it with apps. And you've had really good response to the beta.
I've had an amazing response so far. I'm extremely humbled and honored that this many people have been willing to speak openly about it and give me feedback and test it and play with it. And the enthusiasm from the community has been incredible and much appreciated, because there are absolutely days when I just want to like throw something out a window and go like, but that's what makes this worth it.
Yeah, and there's times you put a call like that. Look, I know there's this problem. I need more information about this problem. So.
Yeah, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes people go like, "Oh man, like accuracy is really bad," and I go like, "Okay, well, let's figure out why. Send me a diagnostic. Send me, what were you doing while you were typing? Do you type that word a lot? Does it give you a problem a lot? That all that kind of stuff." We figure it out.
And if people listening to this haven't been using the app up to now, is the beta still open to join?
Yeah, absolutely. FloType.app is the sort of landing page for this, FLOTYPE.app, and FloType.app/beta will take you directly to the test flight page.
Great stuff. And you're hoping, you said earlier, to get it out by the end of the year. Do you have thoughts on how you're going to, monetize that, or if you're going to, or what?
Yeah, so I definitely think that this stuff takes a lot of work, probably more than most people realize, and I'm not saying that to try to come off as rude or condescending, but it really does take an immense amount of work. And I really didn't realize how much it would take until I kind of got into this whole keyboard thing and went, oh, wow. So, it really does. It takes a lot of work, and Apple keeps changing things constantly and changing voiceover behavior and breaking things and fixing things and breaking other things. And, it's just a constant sort of ever-changing landscape, especially for something like a keyboard. That interacts with VoiceOver and its reading and all that stuff. And so with the language support and all the other features that I've planned and that people have requested, this is going to very much be a continual process. The beta will be continual. The App Store releases will be continual. And so, I need to be compensated in some way for all of that, right? So it's hard because I don't really like subscriptions. It's never been my thing. I know that I think a lot of people in the blind community also really hate subscriptions, but also like, there's only so many ways that you can do this. So I think what I will likely do is make a monthly and a yearly subscription if that's what you want to do, and also like a one-time payment, and maybe sort of like a donation/tip jar type thing, if people feel called to support me in that way. But this is not going anywhere. I'm not planning to abandon this anytime soon. And funny enough, when I posted this on AppleVis, I think one of the first 2 or 3 comments I got was like, you should make this open source. And I said, well, I don't want to do that just yet. But if for whatever reason there comes a time when I can't develop this anymore, or whatever the case may be, I will absolutely make this open source, because I don't want this to die.
Yeah, so much work has gone in, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, look, I'm a big believer in people deserve to be paid for for the work they do, and that if this is an app I'm using literally every day of the week, that yeah, it deserves to be paid for. And it's funny, this is the fourth of these interviews I've done this summer and recorded so far, and all four of you have said essentially the same thing: is that like, I don't love subscriptions. I know people don't love subscriptions, but like at the same time, you have to, you're living in the real world, and like this is you have to.
It's really hard because I don't want the community to think that I'm trying to jip anybody or anything like that, but also this is a lot of work. And I will say that very likely what I will do is keep the actual like container app always free so that you can type in there and use that. And then if you want to use the extension and probably some other different features, that will be a sort of a paid tier of some sort.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's always an option to go that, and I'm always a promoter of those tip jar type solutions as well as additional, or for people who can, who can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I understand not everyone can, and that's okay.
Yeah. So, no, I think it's a brilliant app. I think there's a lot of people who have been not only happy, relieved, so just happy that. When the app came up, when the post came up at AppleVis, a lot of people jumped straight on it, and yeah, I think it's brilliant. You're doing really good work. It's really really fast turnaround as well. So
I try. I definitely try. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'd definitely encourage people, if you type or would like to type a lot on your phone,
come play with it. Especially if you use BSI. BSI is awesome. I have nothing against BSI, but come play with it. You may be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree. I'm not a BSI person, but I know you see comments on it anytime keyboards are discussed on the website of any sort. People go, BSI is amazing. So,
yeah. And some people can't use BSI because they don't know Braille, and that's okay too.
Yeah, exactly. But like when you're typing with FloType, you really feel like you're typing like anyone else. You know what I mean? It's just tap, 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 and go. You know what I mean?
That's the goal. That's the goal, is to kind of level the playing field for everybody.
Yeah. So thanks again for creating it and continuing to create it, and thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
You too, and thanks everyone for listening.
This podcast was brought to you by the community at AppleVis.com. AppleVis, empowering people who are blind, deafblind, or who have low vision to get the most from Apple products and related technologies. A proud member of the Be My Eyes family. For more information, visit our website at www.applevis.com.